This is a tragedy in which we, the United States of America, are complicit. Much of what is happening, much of the bombardment and the other actions that we are seeing now is happening right now with U.S. arms and equipment. In other words, whether we like it or not, the United States is complicit in the nightmare that millions of Palestinians are now experiencing. Madam President, very sensibly, the Foreign Assistance Act of 1961, as amended, requires that any security assistance or military equipment provided by the United States of America to any country must be used in line with internationally recognized human rights. This is not a radical idea and something I hope that we all agree with. This act prohibits assistance to any government that engages in a consistent pattern of human rights violation. This is U.S. law established over 50 years ago, not a new idea. The Act also provides Congress with several oversight tools to ensure that this law is followed. One such tool is Section 502(b)(c), which allows Congress to direct the State Department to provide information on the human rights record of any country receiving U.S. military assistance. Madam President, that is what this resolution does, in line with 50-year-old existing law. It directs the State Department to provide any credible information it may have on potential violations of internationally recognized human rights by Israel in its military campaign in Gaza. Let me say a few words as to why this resolution is necessary, and these rather horrific photographs behind me, I think, say it all. First, it is necessary because of the scale of destruction in Gaza, the indiscriminate nature of the military campaign, the humanitarian catastrophe that is now occurring, and the limits on humanitarian access: food, water, medical supplies, and fuel. Second, because of the extensive use of U.S. weapons in attacks that have killed thousands of civilians. Much of the destruction that has taken place in Gaza has been done with U.S. weapons. And thirdly, I am concerned about the implications of some of the very extreme statements and unclear intentions coming out of the Netanyahu government. Mr. President, it has been more than 100 days since this war began, with the horrific Hamas terrorist attack, which killed 1,200 innocent men, women, and children in Israel, and which took more than 200 hostages, over 100 of whom are still cruelly being held in captivity as of today. And while there is no question in my mind that Israel has the right to defend itself and go to war against Hamas, who started this terrible situation, Israel does not have the right to go to war against the entire Palestinian people and innocent men, women, and children in Gaza. And tragically, that is what we are seeing right now. As we all know, the military campaign being waged by the right-wing Netanyahu government has led to massive destruction and widespread civilian harm. This has been far and away the most intensive bombing campaign of the 21st century. And as President Biden has said repeatedly, and the press and human rights monitors have exhaustively documented, this bombardment has been largely indiscriminate. Mr. President, the results of this bombing campaign has been catastrophic, and I underline the word catastrophic. Since October 7th, the start of the war, over 24,000 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli bombs, and over 60,000 have been injured and wounded. And Mr. President, 70% of these victims are women and children. And it is believed that thousands more victims lie under the rubble of destroyed buildings in Gaza. Since the beginning of this war, 1.9 million Palestinian men, women, and children have been driven from their homes. That is 85% of the total population of Gaza has been forced out of their homes. Where are they going? They've been driven here, they've been driven there. They do not even know today whether they are ever going to be able to return to their homes. These are impoverished people who have no idea as to what their future is or will be. Mr. President, not only are the vast majority of people in Gaza homeless, but they lack food, water, medical supplies, and fuel. A recent UN report indicates that half of the population of about 2.2 million people are at risk of starvation, and 90% say they regularly go without food for a whole day. And parents there go out of their way to make sure that their kids eat first. The chief economist at the World Food Program said that the humanitarian disaster in Gaza was among the worst he had ever seen. Aid groups say that in the coming weeks, the entire population of Gaza could face famine. 24,000 Palestinians in Gaza are dead. 70% are women and children, and 60,000 have been wounded. 70% of the housing stock has been damaged or destroyed, and almost 2 million people are trying to survive with inadequate supplies of food, water, medicine, or fuel. And the humanitarian situation is getting worse by the minute. Hundreds of thousands of beautiful children are facing starvation. Mr. President, given the scale of the destruction and the extensive use of American arms, military equipment in this campaign, Congress must act. And that is why we must pass this 502B resolution. We must ensure that U.S. aid is being used in accordance with international human rights and our own laws. The truth is that since that terrible day on October 7th, when Hamas attacked Israel, the Senate has had little meaningful debate on this war, despite the horrific toll and the deep concerns of many Americans. We have passed symbolic resolutions, but we have not considered a single measure that grapples with the unprecedented destruction, the humanitarian crisis, or the use of American weapons in a military campaign that has left so many dead, wounded, and displaced. Now, no matter what happens on this vote, I know that this will not be the end of this debate. It is just the beginning.